History buff archetypes. This is a very controversial topic for most people who like history, but I've been thinking about this video for a while and I'm pulling the trigger. So we're going in, got quite a few archetypes here. More just have to see. I'll say, and you'll guys decide whether I'm biased or not. Of course, I'm going to be biased. To let you know, I like 1800s American history. That really interests me. I know a little bit about geopolitics. I know a little bit about the ethnicities of certain places. It's kind of a world knowledge thing, not strictly history, but still mostly aligning with history. I'm a world knowledge guy. I know these ethnicities. I know quite a lot about Africa, the certain things happening there, the civil wars, the ethnic groups of certain places. That's something I'm pretty interested in. That's something I know quite a bit about. But yeah, that's my background. Now we're getting into the first one. This one's a heater. World War II. The absolute worst archetype. One, I love World War II. Hoi 4, I love it. Perfect game. But this is base level history knowledge. You're scraping the surface. Even if you know a lot about World War II, World War II is just the objectively most modern topic that gets taught about a lot. So, when you flex World War II knowledge, I don't really care, if I'm being completely honest. But I mean, it's still all right. But it's base level. I don't think you're much of a history buff if you do a lot of World War II stuff. I'm going to be completely honest. Now, it does depend on what type of World War II history you do look into. But if we're talking Germans and their weapons and their invasions and the Blitzkrieg and all that stuff, I don't like you. I think you're inferior. But yeah, so for you, for the World War II buffs, I don't hate all of you, but I hate most of you. We're going to go with a solid D. D tier, not F. I will say they're not the worst. World War II can be very interesting. I'm totally agreeing with that. Our next archetype, World War One. Now these are some real chats. You actually dedicate yourself to something that's not talked about as much. World War One gets glossed over because World War Two is such a hype thing. Not in a good way, but it's a very important topic. It shaped the modern world. World War One, definitely a more niche topic, and that's why I respect World War One people. Nobody really cares about World War One, but I care about you. World War One is pretty epic. I mean, to some people, I think it's incredibly boring. There was nothing happening. Um, Not a lot of front changing, on the western half. They really stopped at the border at France. They went a little bit into whatever, I forgot. The Benelux is the proper term, I think. Went a little bit in there, but of course, everything else sucked. Gallipoli, even that, not cool. But yeah, really, really, really boring. But I can respect a Chad like that because you're devoting yourself to something that most people don't care about. So if you know a lot about World War One, I have respect for you. I have a lot of respect for you. Our next topic, our next archetype, Civil War. Now, Civil War history buffs are chads. I have no bad feelings about them. I think they are objectively one of the best history buff archetypes, especially when you can tell me the commanders of these certain units and these certain battles. I think that's pretty awesome. The naval aspect of the Civil War, kind of an underrated scene of it. That's Chad like too. But I love Ulysses S. Grant, probably one of my favorite historical figures. I like, vlogging through history. Perfect channel, knows a lot about Civil War, epic. I love that. Now, I will say, if you're simping over Robert E. Lee, you get back down a little bit, because I don't really. Robert E. Lee is a little overrated, but there's a lot of cool things in the Civil War that people don't talk about. The Western theater of war. They don't really talk about that. You know a little bit about that. I have a lot of respect for you. Even if you only know the Eastern part, that's still neat, and I have respect for you. So I didn't write World War One. World War One, B. Civil War, that's an A. That's an A. Maybe I'd be generous enough to go, an A plus, maybe almost an S tier, but we're gonna stick with A, just because there can be some bad history buff archetypes within sub archetypes within the Civil War. Next, medieval history. I'm gonna be completely honest here. Don't have a lot of knowledge here. Medieval history, it's chaotic and it's really hard to learn. So I do have respect for the people who do learn medieval history. It's very difficult. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of places within Europe, more specifically medieval times in Europe. I do think people overglaze how terrible it was. It wasn't that bad. It was pretty bad, but it wasn't that bad. I think medieval, it's a cool. I definitely think you want to be this you want to be a knight. You for honor. Medieval is a pretty popular thing in pop culture, so I think that's what most people were probably influenced by. But to be completely honest here, I don't hate you. I don't hate you. I don't love you. You're interesting. Medieval pushed through pop culture, inspired a lot of things like fantasy and stuff. Um, Very complicated, so I'll give you bonus points for that. But it's also just an underwhelming part of history for me personally, and for most people. Most people aren't medieval type of guys. I'm gonna have to put medieval in the C tier. Next, these are some real chads. I have respect for them, of course. I don't know a lot about it, but I have respect for you guys. These are real chads, Asian history buffs, not their ethnicity. I'm talking about Asian history and what they know about it. Now, this is beyond surface level samurai culture. If you know about that, you're just a dweeb who wants to move to Tokyo. I don't like you. But I do like the history buffs. If you know a lot about the Three Kingdoms, Total War is the only reason I know about them and the oversimplified video. But beyond that, have not a lot of knowledge. But if you know a lot about Asian history, especially past the 1800s or before the 1800s, you're a real Chad. It's very untalked about in the Western world. So I imagine in China it's probably pretty popular, but in the Western world, not taught at all. So, and I just want to preface this is not Middle Eastern. I didn't add Middle Eastern because honestly, I'll just say it right now. People who fanboy over the Middle Eastern history are some losers who just like Saladin and stuff. And I don't even know. They're just terrible. But East Asian, South Asian history buffs, I have a lot of respect for you. I'll put you in the B tier. Not a cool part of history. Not very cool. We don't have a lot of sources. It's hard to pronounce their names. But still, I'll shout you guys out. Pretty cool. I don't hate it. I don't hate the game. Next, this is a little bit in my turf here. We're going geopolitics. Geopolitics, not really, I don't know if you want to count that a part of history, but I'm counting it. It's part of that realm of geography. I'm pretty good at geography. That geography, history, geopolitics, and my screen turned off. We're back. Anyways, I love geopolitics. If you know a lot about geopolitics, you actually provide something in the world. That's why I have a lot of respect for you. So shout out to you guys. Geopolitics is really interesting if you actually look into it in the modern stance and what countries like each other, what current wars are happening, whether it's Ethiopia and Eritrea where they're kind of getting a little aggressive, or Sudan, or I see you can tell I've researched a little bit of this stuff, or your Myanmar, your other countries, your other wars, geopolitics in general. This is where you get into these ethnic groups, these certain things, certain problems. Geopolitics is a very interesting part of history, if you want to call it that. Um, I'm going to be personally biased here, and I'm going to give geopolitics an S tier rating. Um, just because it's very important nowadays. You can learn a lot. You can get jobs out of knowing this stuff, by the way. And I think geopolitics is a very interesting part. Of course, you don't want to milk it too much. If you're saying, oh, the next war is about to break out between two random countries that had a little disagreement over whose football team was better, that being non-American football, that is not geopolitics. You're milking it. But beyond that, geopolitics is a Chad move. You're an S tier. Next, also some Chads. 3 Chads in a row. Not the country. We have Napoleon. Napoleonic history. This is top G move right here. You understand movement tactics, similar with Civil War, because that's an underrated movement, period. But Napoleonic history is awesome. Not to glaze Napoleon, but he is probably the top 3 generals of all time. And he led a country. He's an emperor. I mean, he's just a top G. So people who like that really like you. Napoleonic history, a little less known compared to your World War IIs, and if at least for the U.S. your Civil Wars. So shout out to you. Napoleonic history is underrated, but sometimes overrated, but at most times underrated, and I think it's pretty cool. So I'll say Napoleonic history. We're going in A tier. Did I did rate the last few people? Where did I put medieval? I think I put that C tier. Just if you watch this far. Now we have perhaps one of the lowest spots for me personally. We got our planes, tanks, and guns, guys. These are your, well, it's the Panzer 445 guy. Well, actually, they shot a 356 shell at the building and it collapsed in a certain way. These are nerds. Planes, especially. If you're a plane guy, you don't deserve life. And for your tanks, tanks are a little cooler. Planes can be cool, but most of them aren't. Tanks, they can be cool too. Very boring. Don't know why you'd care about tanks. And lastly are your gun guys. Now, I feel bad to these guys because I am lumping you into a below average group. But it's just how things go in life. Life's unfair. Guns are pretty cool depending on how you look into them. We're talking historical guns, your Civil War guns, your World War II guns. I can get down with that. That is a cool gun type thing. But if we're talking about modern guns and if we're glazing guns and if we're not really talking, we're talking about the specificities and all that other stuff, I have less respect for you. But I still think you deserve life, but I just have less respect for you. And even guns are just an underwhelming topic. Guns, yes, they're important to history, very important, but they're not history itself. And that's why I'm putting planes, tanks, and guns in F tier. I kind of glazed over planes and tanks, but planes and tanks suck. Guns a little cooler, but they're not cool enough to bump it out of F tier. And especially the people in this archetype, I'll even add trains into that. This isn't even historical based. Trains, people who like trains don't deserve life. But anyways, those machine guys are an F tier. I'm sorry, gun fellas, but you just don't bump it up. Don't bump it up. Don't bump it up enough. Next, we have our Roman historian. See, Rome isn't, I think about Rome a lot. I think a lot of men do. Rome is pretty awesome. Caesar's awesome. Augustus is awesome. Octavian is awesome. Mark Antony is a loser, but I'll give him some leeway. But anyways, Roman history. There can be some high points, there can be some low points. I think Rome has a lot of potential to be a very interesting topic to know a lot about. But, some of these people just are a little bit of like, they kind of, let's say they glazed that one guy who wrote a book. I don't even know his name. Forgetting, but it doesn't even matter. Because I don't even think he did anything. Yeah, that guy, whatever. Well, I don't even know his name. But that guy's uncool. Or his book is cool. I'm globbing together. Roman historian. There's really cool stuff about Rome. I think the tactics of Rome, the way they were able to subdue tons and tons of nations, if you want to say that, very interesting. And I have a decent amount of respect for you because I do think about Rome probably once a month. In the bad times, and then multiple times a day in the good times. But beyond that, nothing too crazy. I'll put your Rome historian in about B tier because, yes, Rome is a little overglazed, but still a good topic. Still a good topic. I won't hate on you. Next, we have Greece / philosophy / Greek religion. What's it called? Greek myths. I think we'll go with that. You, again, are undeserving of life. You shouldn't procreate. You shouldn't have any children. I wouldn't want them to suffer like that. I can tell your childhood wasn't good, so you decided to ruin everybody else's day and their entire life. Greece is terrible. Greek history, absolutely atrocious. I love Sparta. Sparta is cool. Overglazed and totally lied about. They were not shirtless. Even though I would love that in a fully platonic way, that's not true. That's simply not true. Who doesn't love shirtless men? Let's skip over that. Yeah, philosophy too. Philosophy can be pretty cool, but at a certain point, I don't know why Plato was so rich. I don't know why he's so famous. He's just kind of saying some stuff I don't really care about. But beyond that, Greece can be pretty cool. I will say, Greece versus Persia, pretty cool, I guess. But beyond that, with the myths and the philosophy and stuff, I can't put you too high, but I can't put you too low because Greece is pretty cool. I like Greece in the modern day. I don't like Turkey. I like Greece. So, personally, I will have to put this in C tier. Now, a lot of people do like Greece. A lot of 30-year-old women. That's just how the ball rolls, I think. We're getting down there. Naval fellas. Now, these are some real top G's. I'm not a naval fella. I won't say I am. I really like Navy. I really like I'm forgetting the name, but the wooden ships and stuff. Those are epic. And it turned off again. Those are epic. But I will have to say, it can be very complicated. You can nerd out a little bit. I might not like that personally. Let's keep it at a bare minimum here. But I will say, naval history is epic. It is awesome. I love it. The wooden ships, the metal ships. I'm forgetting the cool names. But anyways, pirates, awesome. That's just awesome. World War II naval history is not objectively, but is, in my humble opinion, maybe it is in my opinion. But I do like naval history in World War II. It is awesome. Navies are cool. They're cool. Star Wars, I like Star Wars. Navies are like Star Wars. I'm gonna be honest. So for the naval fellas, I'm putting you in S tier. You're another S tier. Naval fellas, underrated. Most people talk about land battles and stuff. You guys actually talk about something semi-important. Unlike, you know, your planes, tanks, and guns, guys. Well, not your guns, but your planes and tanks. They're not. Well, they're important, but they're a little part of a big thing. A little part of a big thing. Navies are been around forever, so they're just cooler. So shout out to them. You guys are S tier. Now we're getting down there. I didn't have this one on my list, but I'm gonna put it in. Your Cold War buffs. Now these are usually 50 plus year olds, maybe 40 plus year olds. They grew up during the middle to end of the Cold War. I have some respect for you. Cold War doesn't get talked about as much as it should be. It's kind of like they didn't fight. Yeah, they did. They just didn't fight one on one. It was proxy wars. It was very interesting. Um, Sorry, I burped. But I'm gonna be honest. Cold War is pretty cool. Very important. People always talk about World War II, and I do dislike World War II just because people talk about it so much. But I will have to say, um, yes, the Cold War is awesome, and I despise communism. Shout out capitalism. Um, Communism is a bad idea. Socialism, not so much, but communism is a bad idea. Um, yeah, so I will say, Cold War, very interesting. Not talked about as much. People talk about Vietnam. Vietnam is cool. Pretty sad. People died for absolutely nothing. Don't like that. But besides that, the Cold War was a very interesting time. And these people who like it, they're some chill OGs. They're up there. They're unks, but they're not losers. That's the most important thing when you like history. You can't be a loser. Um, Lastly, but certainly not least, we have your alt historian. Now, I didn't rate the naval fellas or the Cold War. Well, I didn't rate the Cold War. Cold War goes into A tier. Good buff, good buff, good buff. Alt historians. To be completely honest here, it's a very, it varies what type of alt historian you are because a lot of people focus on different things. Um, and there can be some bad alt histories. I'm going to be honest here. If the Confederacy won the Civil War is a bad alt history in every possible way. I don't get how you like that, and I have a lot of disrespect for you and your family, your entire lineage. Um, you are a revisionist, and the lost cause is a stupid idea, and you're a lost causer, and you are undeserving of life. Sadly enough, your what if Germany won World War II's can be a little interesting, but again, it's a little too depressing for me because I don't like that. Yes, I'm biased. Um, but even that is very unrealistic in my personal opinion. Um, and your other ones, especially the people who kind of get out there a little bit, they don't focus on your World War IIs, your Civil Wars, your American Revolutions, your you know, if you're doing Cold War stuff, I have a lot of respect for you because Cold War, there's a lot of different outcomes. Alt history can be a very high tier, it can be S tier. I love alt history. It could be F tier. You lost causers. So, to put it in the middle, I'm gonna have to put it slightly bump it up a little bit because I think that's how it might shake out. I think it's either B or C. We're gonna go B tier just because I do like alt history a lot. You just gotta be careful what you watch and what you intake. That's it. That's all I have to say. So all those people I put in F tier, and yeah, F tier, you're undeserving of life. D tier, you can have life, but you shouldn't enjoy it. C tier, I hope that you just live life. I hope you're living. I just don't hope you're thriving. B tier, I hope you're living good. A tier, I hope you're thriving. I hope you're being successful. S tier, please impregnate me. I'm joking. I want to have your offspring because you're such a top G genetic list. You're just the best. And yeah, that's my rating. I can't find the button.